Welcome to The Human Edge. This week's guest is Kitch. Kitch is a London rapper, and he was here to talk to me about his EP, Highest Value. It was an incredible conversation. Predominantly, I think, from my perspective, it's because Kitch, although he's a rapper, he has quite a significant stammer. Even though he was speaking to me for about an hour, he is really eloquent, really insightful, and completely dedicated to his craft. I have no doubt that he's going to go far. This is a really, really interesting conversation about the nature of perseverance, hard work, and dedication. I love the conversation. I hope you do too. And if you do, please subscribe. It's going to be massively helpful. Thank you. So I want to get it out the way early. Mm-hmm. You're a rapper. Mm-hmm. You also have a stammer. Is stammer the right word to talk about that?
Yeah, so stammer and stutter are the same things. It's just stammer's the UK way of saying it. Yeah. Stutter is the American way of saying it.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's the same thing.
Yeah. And so from my perspective, I don't want to be condescending in any way, but it's kind of courageous for you to come on and talk. We could be talking for an hour or so. Mm-hmm. It's being recorded, it's going out on YouTube and Spotify and all that. Mm-hmm. Is it challenging for you in this kind of environment?
It was at first, but I think the more public facing I've become in the past few years, it's just I know it's as important to share my story as it is to release music. Yeah. Because people want to get to know the artist, want to feel a connection. And I feel like although music is a great way of doing that, I've sort of stopped making songs about my life and about my story, because I want to make joyful music and sort of music people can actually dance to or play on a summer's day or something. Sure. So I've sort of stopped speaking about it for the most part in my music, and just but it's still a big part of me through my interviews and blah blah blah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Are you saying, kind of thinking about your music going forward, that? So let me change the question around. Is the story that you were telling before quite a dark story that you wouldn't want to pair to music to create joyful music?
Dark is a way of saying it, but I wouldn't say it's dark. It was just very emotional. I feel like the best way for you to understand is if I actually sort of explain,
please,
how I started rapping. So I was in school, I was getting into a lot of fights, a lot of trouble, because I couldn't vent verbally. Yeah. I'd vent physically. Yeah. Which then meant if someone was sort of making a joke or just teasing me, I couldn't tease them back, so I just punched them. Mm-hmm. Which then meant I was excluded and blah 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 blah. And then fast forward when I was in year 10, so that's 15, 16. I had a counsellor at the time, and she gave me a little notebook and said, when you feel angry, rather than hitting someone, write it down. And I was thinking, I'm not gonna, in the heat of a moment, stop and then just start writing stuff. So I still hit them, but then I'd explain why in the notebook. And then, and ever since the age of 8 years old, I loved hip hop. So then eventually, what I started writing, I found it fun just to rhyme it, not to think I'll be an artist or blah, blah, blah. Because although I'm fairly fluent now, it's like night and day to how I was as a teenager and even younger. So it's like me becoming a rapper was just absurd sort of thing. So it's purely so the point of this was I started writing as a sort of therapeutic expression.
Yeah.
So then when I decided I actually want to rap a few years later, that was all I was doing still, but in song form now. So I was making a lot of emotional songs, if that's sad, if that's anger, if that's... So it's how I started writing, was purely therapeutically to help me understand and to deal with my emotions.
And when you're writing now, what inspires you?
Still how I feel, but I try to flip it so it's not all about me, and I try to sort of write with the audience in mind, whereas before I was just writing because I wanted to vent. But as I've sort of grown in this field, I've realised there's only so much people want to hear about me all the time. So now we've got our own studio as well, me and my producers who are my best friends. They'll just start playing chords, putting down a drum loop, and then I'll just vibe off to whatever style that they make. That will then inspire how I write, or my rhythms of flow, or blah blah blah.
Okay, so it sounds like you're creating in the moment.
Yeah.
So they're putting down the loops, and then that's the sound of it, the rhythm of it, then inspires. It just comes. It just comes. Yeah. Comes naturally from there. And because when I was imagining, when I was preparing for the conversation with you, I was imagining it would be a little bit like how you described as a teenager. Not necessarily the punching and stuff, but you'd be walking along, in Tesco in a supermarket, something, suddenly you get inspiration, you write something down.
And that still happens as well.
That does happen
that
too.
still happens.
Yeah.
So I've got a document on my phone, which is just little one-liners or little punchlines.
Yeah.
Or a nice rhyme scheme I thought of when I'm just on the go. Yeah. And then if I'm in the studio struggling for inspiration, I'll just flick through that. And if anything catches my eye, I'll use it in a session. So.
Yeah. I'm really fascinated by the creative process. My wife's a writer. Okay. And I know, in order for her to do her best work, the conditions have to be right, the environment has to be right, her headspace has to be right. Yeah. So how do you get yourself in the best environment in which to do your best work?
It's hard to say, because obviously there's some days where inspiration just flows off the tongue, and there's other days where I'll be stuck on the line for like 3 hours. But in my head, the best way to just overcome it, or to even get yourself in the right mindset, is to just push through it. I've got this sort of thing, like I sort of always tell myself and the people around me, you have to create your own luck. So cool, everyone's lucky. Everyone's who's had success has had some form of luck. Yeah. But they're not lucky lying in bed. Yeah. They're lucky playing 100 open mics to like 3 people. One of those nights, one of those 3 people would be someone who then links it.
You've got to put the work in.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So when I'm in the studio and I'm in my head and I'm just like frustrated or sort of self-doubt, I'll just say, you have to get through it.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
Yeah.
And some days it works, some days it doesn't. But the important thing is when you wake up in the morning, you want to go again.
Yeah, and it's a discipline, right, isn't it? And so at the end of the day, you can look yourself in the mirror and say, I may not have created in the way I wanted to create today, but I still went through the process. I still gave it my all, and let's see what today brings.
100%, yeah.
Changing tack a little bit, something I haven't asked you before. We've had a couple of conversations before today. Kitch, that's your stage name. I don't know how you describe that. Your persona.
Yeah.
Where's that name come from?
So Kitch was actually the first name I was ever called. So when people ask for my name and I say Kitch, it's not me being egotistical or like I'm a rapper.
Yeah.
And call me by my rap name.
Yeah.
Kitch is actually what everyone calls me because I was born in my kitchen.
Okay.
And my parents didn't know what to call me.
Yeah.
And I think it was either my neighbor or my auntie or just someone said as a joke, call him Kitch.
Yeah.
And it just stuck.
Okay.
So then when it came to actually writing out the forms, my parents just thought of the closest thing to Kitch as an actual name, and they thought of Rich.
Yeah.
So it's my sort of actual name is Richie, but when I was growing up, Richie was really hard for me to say. So I just started saying Kitch because it was easier. So then when it came to picking a rap name, it was just
you chose.
I've already got one sort of thing. Yeah.
And I said the word persona earlier, and I'm super curious. Like the guy that I see before me now, I'm imagining, and I've seen some of your stuff on YouTube, is not the same guy when you're not the same when you're performing, when you're on stage. And the biggest distinction is that you don't stammer. Tell me about that.
So honestly, I got no idea why, and it didn't start off like that. So when I mentioned I was writing in my notebook, when I first started to actually try to rap it, I was still stammering. And it took me probably about a year or so, every day, all day, every day, like pretty much. It was like 8 hours minimum a day that I would just spend writing, reciting, recording on my phone, on the voice notes, listening back, and just doing that purely for the passion. Because for the first time in my life, I sort of had a voice. So it really pushed me to be like, let's see where this can go. So I was just practicing. And then after like probably a year, my rapping was almost fluent, but then I realized that my speech had improved a lot as well. And I've been through speech therapy all my life and blah, blah, and it's not really helped. But when I was 18, when I started rapping, that was when I saw the biggest increase in my fluency. And so after I'm sure you've seen my BBC documentary thing. When that was released, I had sort of like someone run these brain scans on me when I was speaking, when I was rapping a cappella on a beat. He was really experimenting and listening back to recordings. My speech was better when I was rapping to a beat, but then also afterwards, in my normal speaking, it had improved after I had rapped, but the brain scans didn't show any difference.
Wow.
So then that means, to me, it was a anxiety, trauma caused thing, and it's about confidence, and it's about all those sort of internal things, which is probably why all the speech therapy didn't help.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And of course, slight tangent, but you know, the most famous example I think that many people know is Ed Sheeran, who had a stammer when he was younger.
Yeah.
Practiced rapping to Eminem, and that was his therapy successfully.
Yeah. So there's been no sort of scientific reason why it happens. It just does.
Yeah. And when you're so in the moments before you become Kitch on stage, what are you telling yourself?
That's a good question. What am I telling myself? I'm telling myself, I hope people come. I hope that they receive it well. I'm not so much worried about me stammering anymore. Maybe in between songs I am. So when I'm sort of introducing the next song, or I'm saying I've got a merch store at the side, I'd really appreciate it, blah, blah, blah. Then I'm sort of hoping that I'm as fluent as I can, but I'm also aware that it's part of who I am.
Yes.
So you just gotta, if it happens, it happens.
Yeah.
But on the whole, I'm just excited. I just can't wait to sort of get out there to prove to myself that I can do this, to prove that I'm not who I was before in terms of hiding behind it. If you would ask me when I was 15 to even talk in class, I would have said no. And now I'm on stage in front of thousands of people, and I'm in my element. So it's been a journey.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing what can happen, and I've heard stories before about, you know, and I take a lot from the world of sport, right? And you hear stories of elite sports people vomiting in the changing rooms.
Yeah.
And then, you know, they cross the white line or whatever it is, and they begin performing, they begin competing, and it's like it's two different people.
Yeah.
Does it feel a little bit like that for you?
As in when I'm sitting down now and on stage? Not really, because I like to pride myself on I don't really change. I don't have a persona. So it's like, which I think comes from me being called Kitch all my life.
Sure.
It's just who I am. It's not a sort of fake name that labels created that saying, oh, here's these clothes, put on this voice, da da da. It's just me being authentic.
Yeah. It's like almost like the best version of yourself.
Yeah. So I will say that though, it is the best version of me because I'm probably most confident, most animated when I'm on stage. If you see me walking on the street, I'm a normal I'm not moving every day how I move when I'm on stage.
So there's a different physicality about the
100%.
way you are on stage as well.
Yeah, because I know first and foremost that my job is to entertain you.
Would that, so if you were literally performing to no people?
I've done that before.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's obviously it's not
ideal.
Isn't it? Yeah. And I'm not sort of giving it my all, but I'm still.
Yeah. So you're still. I wondered whether it was being before an audience that has you kind of bring out the best version of yourself, but maybe it's about just performance generally.
But also, don't get me wrong. If the crowd are sort of loving it and they are getting energy from my energy on stage, it sort of reflects back to me. So then I give even more. Yeah. Because if everyone's sitting there screw facing me, it's hard to constantly go crazy. So I do tone it down, and also I know that there's some venues that are more intimate, that sort of that do sit down on a stool with a mic stand.
So you need a different style, a different energy for that.
But it's more so in my voice, tonally. I'll sort of inflect some words, so the energy is not in my actual energy, but in the delivery, to make it more sort of meaningful. So to really make a phrase stand out in this intimate crowd, I'm not going to scream it at you, but I'll make it sound different tonally to the rest of the song. Yeah, if it makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. You talked about delivery in between your songs, you know, at a concert. Talking about if you're having to sell your merch, for example, promote your merch. There's a great example of that merch here. Highest Value is the name of the EP, your current EP. Can you tell me a little bit about what inspired it, what it's about?
Cool. So Highest Value, so what inspired it was I knew I had to make a project, because so I started this EP in 2022, and it was only released a few months ago. So it was a good 2 years in the making, which was a hard process, but a process that to me had to be done, because I'd started projects before, got like halfway through, and then scrapped it. But when I felt this one starting, I told myself, we're not doing this again. Like you'll make a project and you'll finish it to the best of your ability, even if it takes however long it takes. Even if you just have to release it half-heartedly, you just have to release it, because otherwise I was scared of the routine of just making music and just not putting it out. It's like the most important bit of making music is actually other people hearing it.
Yeah, that's right. And just before you carry on with the story, the music that you'd made before, the projects that you had half completed before, what had held you back from completing them?
I feel like stylistically, I wasn't sure if that was my sound, or if I was experimenting, and it was like I'm not sure if I'm ready for people to hear this side of me. But I would say most importantly is because I'd only been rapping for like 4 to 5 years. Every 6 months, I would improve a lot. So it was and the projects aren't sort of a quick thing to make, especially when you've not got the studio and blah blah. So it's like it would take us a few months to sort of make a few songs that we liked, and then we try to refine them, make a few more new songs. Now like a year's passed and I've improved from last year. So then I felt like it wasn't the best reflection of me. So then it's like, no, next.
Yeah. So what changed? I'm imagining you that rate of improvement is continuing.
Yeah.
So what's changed? How come you're now able, even though it took the best part of 18 months, 2 years, you were able to put that EP together?
Yeah.
And not think, actually, those tracks that I recorded 18 months ago, they're not good enough.
Yeah. So it's what I said before, like, you just have to do it.
Yeah.
Like,
So there are there tracks on the EP that you think, oh, yeah, I'm not so proud of them.
Yeah. I wouldn't say not so proud, because I know at that moment in time I thought this is sick.
Yeah.
And it's just through growth now where I'm able to say, that's not the best. But sort of, it's the beautiful thing of the journey. And I knew when I was making this that almost this was it. So I've got a song on there called No Plan B. And the first lyric is, I'm here with the 4th attempt. So it's the 4th project I've made. And the lyric actually is, I'm here with the 4th attempt. It's fortunate that my thoughts to rest got caught, and aborted is the cause of death. So it's basically me saying, in a really complex rhyming way, of me saying any thought to quit had to kill.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm here with the 4th attempt, and this will be the final attempt.
Yeah.
I'm releasing this.
Yeah.
So it's like, even through creating this project, I put that pressure on myself to say this has to be good, because it's being released.
Yeah.
And of course, we had songs that were originally there and that then got removed and blah blah. And so it was a process in itself. But on the whole, for where I was when I started it, I was proud of it. But even with the music I'm making now, it's got a bit more intent to it. It's a bit more thoughtful. It's a bit more, okay, I can actually, because so in highest value, there's a little bit still of the sort of therapeutic side, which is still good. Don't get me wrong, it's still important for me to express how I feel, but that's not the be all or end all of making music.
Yeah.
So it's only sort of the past 6 months where we've really been able to make music that's not about me, but that I'm just performing it.
Yeah. Yeah. What is the be all and end all?
As in, like, my plan?
No, I want to come on to that. But in terms of you just saying, making music about yourself's not the be all and end all. What is I suppose it comes down to what is creativity for you now? You talked about creating with the audience in mind. Yeah. Which for me is always I don't know if it's a dangerous thing to do, because you can't predict what people are going to like, right? But
exactly.
Yeah.
So for where I'm at right now, and I'm sure, again, I speak about the growth. If we do this again next year, I'll say, what was he talking about? But for me, it's more about, so for example, I've got a few songs on this EP that haven't even got choruses. Because when I write, I just want to rap, show off the skills, or just sort of, or sort of express myself. I didn't really care for sort of having a catchy song or anything. But now I'm aware that, well, I was always aware, but sort of now I'm actually realizing that the hook is the most important bit of the song. And I knew that before, but I didn't care. So I was very ignorant in the fact of I'm writing for myself. Now it's like, cool, here's the beat. Let's actually think of a hook that will work to this music. And then we can sort of tailor a song around that hook. Whereas before, I just hear the beat and start writing however I felt. So I'm not saying that I'm writing for the audience in that sense, but it's more I know now what a song needs to be, I'm not going to say commercially viable, but I know what
it's about the construction of what I'm really curious about that. I do wonder whether you might get to a point in time where you go back to the way you did it originally, and whether there's you'll find an audience for that kind of music as well as the traditional rap, but with a beat, with a hook as well.
And it's weird now. Well, 100%. But I feel like at a stage where I'm at now, I need to grow my audience. So I need to play the game a little bit. And then once I have that sort of core fan base, I can then show them, but here's what I actually like to do. And here's where you get the best part of Kitch.
Does it feel, in some senses, a little less authentic, creating music in the way you just described, rather than the raw, what comes out when you hear the beat?
No, because it's still all me. It's not as if I'm making pop songs. I've got a sort of a group of 6 songwriters in the room saying, say this line. It's just been a bit more intentional and a bit more focused. And I'm still saying everything that I would say before, but it's not a freestyle verse anymore. It's there's a bit of structure to it. There's a bit of, so it's like almost before I would say that I'm a rapper. Now I say that I'm an artist. Because I can make songs and music with my raps rather than I'm just writing raps. If it makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. So coming back to the story of Highest Value, what if you listen to the EP all the way through, how would you describe the theme of it, or what you wanted to, the message that you wanted to put out there?
So I'd say the theme is so the last line of the first song is, if you can't withstand the pain, you don't value it. Which for me,
that one jumped right out at me.
Sums it up well. And it's almost because when people speak of the value of something, everyone immediately thinks of how much it costs, for example. But I learned that on the value, that chart everyone has, you would place things on there, and the higher the highest value on your chart, you would usually introduce yourself as, and you will take anything, any pain, any blah blah for that. So, for example, when a mother has a child, if someone asks, "Oh, what do you do?" she'll say, "Oh, I'm a mother," or blah blah. And to be a mother, forget all the actual physical pain of labour, but the sort of sleepless nights and all those sort of things. There's a lot of pain and a lot of sacrifice in there, but because the mother values her child so much, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I was and then a few songs in, I've got a song called Rich in Rhymes, which is basically me saying I'm not rich with money, but there's other things you can be rich in.
Yeah.
And in my writing is one of them. And then, so as we sort of go through the EP, it's sort of me understanding and sort of learning there's more to this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Even in the first song, it sort of starts off and I'm in a bad place. I'm saying something like, I'm with a DJ and a hype man on stage and a crowd, but I still feel alone. So it was like, I don't feel accomplished in myself. But then sort of by the end of it, I'm saying if you can't withstand it, you don't value it. So sort of me sort of realising I love this thing.
Yeah, and you say something similar, don't you? Like, I hate the game.
Yeah.
But it's like, I have to do it.
Yeah. So it says I hate the game, but it's unconditional love.
That's right.
So it's like same with a sort of family argument. You might sort of argue with your mum, and then sort of in the moment you're like, oh, I hate you. But then always a day, an hour, a second, however long after, when you sort of come back together, the love's still there. Yeah. And that's sort of how I feel about rap sometimes, because it's not an easy thing, and you I just have to balance it the best you can.
Yeah, and it's not an easy thing, and I think the same can be said about doing anything difficult.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And if it was easy, then there would be no growth, no joy. It would not feel so sweet, when you've gone through all the tough times.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Even like back to when you were speaking about elite sportsmen, they've spent their whole lives training hard, disciplined, eating well, not partying, not doing all these things, just for this thing that is so. Yeah, it can be done. Just like that, and I'm sure that there's sort of times where sort of academy prospects are like, oh, it's not how I thought it would be, or it's harder. But if you have that drive and that sort of passion to sort of keep going, no matter what, shows how much you will value it.
Yeah, and I think it's that mentality that separates
100%.
The elite rappers,
the
elite sports people, from the people that find it too hard and drop out, or are in the sporting sense told, sorry, you're not good enough.
Yeah,
that's the difference. Yeah, that's the difference.
And it's almost when you get told you're not good enough is when you gotta pull your socks up and say, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, let me prove you wrong.
Yeah. Have you been told you're not good enough?
100 times. But I would agree with them. Because at the start, when I was starting off, so how I create music now, in the moment, to how I did then, it is very different. So I would have the lyrics written down when I was just venting. So the sort of the length of the lines aren't the same. Or the rhymes aren't sort of hitting on the same beat. So then I would get a beat and just try to fit all my lyrics in the beat, which means the flow was off, it was out of time, it was blah, blah, blah. And I was going on stages, performing these things that are out of time. And when I look back, I think, who gave you the confidence to even... Because it was terrible, like, sort of, I know sort of everyone says, looking back, oh, sort of it was bad to start with. But it's mainly because when they started, they were young and they're kids. So it's okay. I started to rapping when I was 18. And so that's quite late to sort of start something in this. So for example, like sort of footballers started playing when they were 5 years old. Do you know what I mean? So then by the time...
There is always the example of the late bloomer.
Of course, Sort of from Ian Wright, and Jamie Vardy, whoever. But so it's like I was with my peers at 18, just started rapping and just learning what a metronome was, and what a kick was, all these sort of things. I know nothing about music apart from rhyming. Because I was obsessed with rappers, and I'd dissect their lyrics, and so I'd be rhyming 8 syllables every line, but the actual words were offbeat. So in my head, I'm like, these rappers aren't doing what I'm doing, but it was just so offbeat that it was, so, and I forgot the original question.
I did too, but that's all right.
So the growth from there to now, learning how actual songs are made in the sessions. So the beats getting made around the vocals I've just written and blah, blah, blah. Learning how to write in that pressured environment when you've got an engineer and a producer waiting for your lyrics. Learning about all those things has now enabled me to sort of grow as an artist.
No, I did remember the original question, which was, have you been told you're not good enough?
Oh, yes.
And the reason I wanted to ask that is because one of the things I love to ask on in the conversations I have with this podcast is, how people achieve success despite the insecurities that they have, that we all have, because, it's a very human being to have doubt, to have insecurities. So what insecurities do you have still today about what you can achieve?
I would say that my speech is still one, although it's a million times better than what it was. For the most part of this interview, I've been fluent, but that's still a big insecurity because I feel very comfortable here. So it's why I'm fluent. But when I'm meeting new people, or I'm trying to network with other artists, when I'm just speaking and I say I'm a rapper, sorry, pardon me.
We can edit that bit out.
Perfect. So when I'm networking with other artists, and I tell them I'm a rapper, but then I'm stammering doing so, they sort of don't believe me. And it's like, oh yeah, cool, yeah, all right. everyone raps now, sort of thing. Yeah, like,
yeah.
So I would say that my stammer is still a big insecurity when meeting new people and when pushing boundaries.
Yeah. And just pausing on that then, how do you, because again, many people who have an insecurity about doing something hard will give up. There's a fear, fear is such a fear of failure, fear of looking like an idiot, whatever it might be. People have that fear, and it often stops them from doing what they really want to do.
Yeah.
So how do you push through that insecurity?
I say because I've got a fear of staying stagnant, or a fear of not even trying.
Yeah.
So everyone's got a fear of failure, but I think for me, I don't really see it as a fear. I just see it as the process.
But maybe to kind of reframe it in a different way, is that fear, the fear of failure, is being stagnant. Failure is, for you, is staying still.
Yeah.
So that's what pushes you through.
Yeah. So I feel like my sort of I feel like we're saying things over and over again, but it's just actually how I feel. It's just, you need to just work hard, create your own luck. Nothing's gonna happen if you just stay in bed. If I'm in bed past 10 o'clock and I'm actually awake, or sort of even 9 o'clock, it sort of frustrates me because I'm thinking, what am I achieving right now? And everyone says to me, you need rest and blah, blah. And I starting to understand that a little bit now. But in my head, I can rest when I've succeeded, when I've sort of deserved it. Right now, there's still a lot I need to achieve, and I won't achieve that by just sitting around.
What does success look like?
To be able to live off my music. In a how can I, it's like my dream is to obviously tour the world and to sell millions of records and all those sort of things. But for me, success looks like living off of music, raising a happy home, and just being able to do what I love every day.
So, who can ask for more, right?
Exactly, yeah. Whichever scale that is. So if I'm doing pub nights 3 times a week, I'm getting a few £100 a night, but I'm able to sort of live off that, I'll still be striving for more, but to be able to earn and to sort of live off music is the main goal.
And you talked about wealth before, right, in the context of one of the tracks on the EP, and what that understanding of what wealth means. And I hear it again there. Wealth is not, and maybe you'll get to that one day, it's not about millions and millions and millions in the bank account. The wealth is the satisfaction, or whatever word you want to use to describe it, of creating music 100%. and having it fund your life.
Yeah, 100%. Because you always, so there's always loads of phrases being said like money can't buy you happiness and all this sort of stuff. And even listening to a few of my sort of favourite rappers, they sort of always say, I feel lonelier in this big mansion than I did in my 1-bed flat.
Yeah.
So it's so there's always how can I say it? So, although it is sort of a dream destination, it's not all about that.
Yeah.
I just want the right people around me, and yeah, as long as I'm able to do what I love every day. And I can go back to somewhere where I feel loved and appreciated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. As you said, you can ask for more.
Yeah, for sure. What are you working on now?
So I am working on a few singles at the moment. Well, I say singles. They might become projects.
Yeah.
But in my head now, for my trajectory to sort of keep on the upwards, I need to be more consistent, because I had a big break of releasing when I was making highest value, and I almost don't want to make that same mistake. So if a project comes quickly, I'm all for it. But right now it's more about consistently releasing music.
Yeah.
I released a new single and music video a few weeks ago called Best Kept Secret. And now I'm, pardon me again, sorry. I released a new single a few weeks ago called Best Kept Secret.
And that's not from Highest Value, that's...
No. It's a new song that I wrote this year. So, also it's another thing that I'm working on doing, making the gap when it was written and when it was released much shorter. So obviously songs can take a few weeks to be made. If it's the sort of production, recording, mixing, mastering, there's a whole process to it.
Yeah.
Which I'm fine with that. But if I can get the song out within a few months, how I did with the Josiah Booth single before the EP that was written on the 1st of January, and it was released in March or April. So that was a quicker time frame.
Yeah.
Same with Best Kept Secret now, and I've got at least 2 more singles that I mixed and mastered. We're just editing the music videos, so they'll be out before the end of the year.
Yeah. And just so I'm, because I'm a bit of a traditionalist in the way I think about how music is created.
Okay.
Like in the old days, there'd be an album created, an artist or a band would put together an album, the album would come out, and then singles would be released. But it sounds like what you're saying is you're not working on an album at the moment,
no.
but you're still steadily releasing singles.
Yeah. So
is there a strategy behind that, or is that's just the way it's done these days?
I feel like because the way music is sort of listened to is very, I call it microwave. It's hot for like 30 seconds and it's on to the next.
Yeah.
So I don't think people are actually taking in albums as much these days, unless they're obsessed with the artist.
Yeah.
They're not going to play a whole hour's worth.
Yeah, or unless the artist is that big that they can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I still play albums when I'm in the car or when I'm in the gym, because I like to sort of study how they put together the albums. But for the average listener on a playlist, they just want the singles.
Yeah.
They just want the top hits.
Yeah.
Which is sort of, is it ruining music? I don't want to say yes, but it's definitely doing something.
Yeah.
So right now, we're just making individual songs.
Yeah.
Some of them I can hear on a body of work, but because we made them in the same week, it was in the same mindset, similar sounds. So it's like, okay, this sort of could work in a project, but we're not focusing on that. We just want consistent singles to sort of feed the algorithm, build the audience.
Yes, it's all about feeding the algorithm these days, isn't it?
Yeah, which is unfortunate because the real talent and the real artistry gets missed out for whatever's trendy or hot in the minute. But it's just, I used to be against all this sort of stuff, but sort of I'm not sure if it's maturing or not, but you just have to play the game.
You have to play the game.
Yeah.
So for the audience out there that wants to, the new audience as well, that wants to check out your rap, where do people find it? What's the best, if you could direct them to one place, where would it be?
If I could direct you to one place, it would be my YouTube channel, because it's not only got all my music, but it's got my short film, Phoenix. It's got a little BBC documentary. It's got live performances. It's just got it all there.
Okay.
But obviously, all my singles and the EP is all on Spotify and Apple, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and the YouTube channel, that's Kitch Official?
Just Kitch. No,
just
it's
Kitch.
just Kitch.
Okay.
You might need to type in Kitch_official. Just for it to show up. But the YouTube channel is just Kitch.
Yeah.
But you'll see my face, so you'll know it's me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so more stuff on the way, 100%. Project maybe next year, but right now it was so stressful making and releasing this EP that I'm just over it for a whole minute.
And we talked about insecurities earlier, and along with the insecurity around your stammer, and also imagining that putting yourself out there, by way of your music, that's a really vulnerable place to be because it's 100%. So personal.
100%, yeah. And it's almost people it's quite hard to sort of win over a crowd these days because there's so much available on the market.
Yeah. Attention is short.
Yeah, but also there's all these styles and all these preferences and sort of all these tastes. So if you don't fit into that one person's ideal artist, they'll just type something under your post saying, quit, or just something. And it's very, it's a harsh world out there, that's a good thing. Because again, it sort of pushes me to say, cool, I'll win you over soon.
Yeah, I love that attitude.
That's how you got to see things.
Yeah. Because
I'm sure if you listened to all the advice or sort of all the people around you, you might not have started this podcast.
Yeah, actually, that's a great point. Nobody was saying to me, "Don't do it." I was saying to myself,
"Oh, really?
Don't do it." And it was at the point at which I could see through the story that I was telling myself.
Yeah,
that's the point where I thought, actually, I'm not listening to my own insecurities. I'm not listening to the what ifs. Right? I want to do it, and I'm going to do it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, as you should.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm reminded, just as we're closing, of one of the videos I saw of you being introduced to a crowd, and I can't remember what the MC was saying, but it's like, this guy you are going to be like the next big thing.
Fingers crossed.
So yeah. I wish you every success.
Thank you very
I
much.
love what you're doing. I think the story is amazing, and for everybody listening and watching, please go and check him out. Kitch.
Thank you very much.
Richie, thank you so much. Cheers.
Thank you.